Hi everyone, it's Nichol Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today I am sharing the exclusive limited edition for STAMPtember 2021 for Simon Says Stamp Waffle Flower, and in addition we're going to have a little fun with stencils and Distress Oxide ink. We're going to start by creating these really fun stenciled backgrounds with Distress Oxide ink and then finish with the oversized Wishes stamp set greetings and then some fun embellishing. So our stenciled backgrounds are going to be pretty much the star of the show for these cards. It's been my goal throughout STAMPtember 2021 to create some ideas that you can use beyond just the exclusive limited edition. So we're going to start with stencils that are available anytime. We're going to be using stencils from Simon Says Stamp and Waffle Flower to create our backgrounds today. This is a super versatile greeting set from Waffle Flower, and if you like this style, in their regular line they have lots of different sentiment stamp sets that are similar. I know I have the rainbow one, and I think like the Joy Christmas one. I can't think of the exact name. It's probably oversized Joy and oversized Rainbow, but they are really, really great. So I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Falling Leaves Layering Stencils. This is one of my favorite products from 2020, and we are using a little peeled paint and Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide inks through the stencil first. This is a layering stencil, meaning there are several layers, 4 to be exact, with this where you kind of build on the color, and it makes it really easy to switch color, which I absolutely love. I love when companies have stencils that layer like this and it's really easy to add color. And in addition to adding color, I'm using multiple colors. So I'm using some ground espresso now with the peeled paint and Rustic Wilderness to build this first layer background. And I'm just kind of adding little bits here and there. So we're focusing on Waffle Flower today. I'm also using the Waffle Flower stenciling mat. Highly recommend them. I know I probably am a broken record, but I had no idea that they were missing in my life until they released them this month. They are phenomenal. They really do hold the product down nicely and provide a very lovely work surface for stenciling. So I could not figure out the other way, the next layer for my stencil. You can do these in any order, by the way. They're not numbered. But what is awesome about this set is that you get the full leaf stencil. I actually used it on my Brutus Monroe STAMPtember cards as well, the full stencil, not the layering ones. And so I used it as a guide so I could figure out the position of this next layer, because that full stencil has all of the different layers. I hope that makes sense. I'm using Crackling Campfire Distress Oxide ink now. And I guess I should also mention, I'm using the stencil mat from Waffle Flower, and I'm using the new blending brushes from Waffle Flower. I've opted to use these blending brushes as my Oxide brushes. This is what I am currently using. I use a different set of brushes for my oxides than I do for my regular dye inks or distress inks. And so I thought these were perfect for that, and I have been using them and loving them. Then I'm going to take a little Candied Apple Distress Oxide ink, and I'm working that into the Crackling Campfire. I love how it almost looks fiery with those two colors, and then back to a little ground espresso. Work that into the orange. And then when I peel up this stencil, you're going to really start to kind of see the pattern. Now, as beautiful as these leaves are on the white background, I was really afraid my sentiment was not going to show up against so much white in the background, so I will be showing you what I did to fill in the background. I stenciled first, and then I'm going to ink blend over very, very lightly. You can see I grabbed my the full stencil again to use as a guide, and then I'm going to line up my third layer, and we're going to use browns here. We're going to use Antique Linen, Gathered Twigs, and Ground Espresso. Or at least Antique Linen and Gathered Twigs. I can't exactly remember if I used Ground Espresso or not. I guess we'll see. So just really nice fall colors for this background. And I want to make sure and get any part that is touching my background panel. My panels do measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. And then a little gathered twigs to darken especially some of the acorns. I put a little of the rustic wilderness into just the leaves, not the acorns. And it is looking good. How pretty is that? So the last layer was super easy to line up since I have most everything there. And this time we're going to use gathered twigs and ground espresso. And just, again, make sure that we touch every little bit. Deepening and darkening some of the twigs with the ground espresso. And so pretty. This looks beautiful as is, but again, I will be ink blending over the top of this, or inking, so that it makes it a little bit easier for the sentiment to show up. I'm going to set that aside and we're going to work on the Christmas set. This is the Winter Floral Layering set, also from 2020. These are both sets that I have used at least a couple times before. They are some of my most favorite. I love them. And really, really good layering stencil sets. So that is a little festive berries. I'm also going to work in a little candied apple. That just kind of deepens and darkens the center of my winter florals here. We have our next layer, which is going to be some leaves, and I'm going to use the evergreen bough there, or bow. I never know how to say that right. I don't even know. I'm going to go ahead and ink that up. I definitely wanted something a little bit less traditional for my Christmas colors, or just a little bit more modern, I guess I should say. So that's why I picked more of an aqua-ish type of green, or turquoisey green. But I will work in just a little rustic wilderness into some of the greenery. I like adding multiple colors to each section. Oh, so pretty. And again, because it's on white and there's so much white background, I think that an ink blended background is going to make the sentiment pop more. For the branches, we're using a little gathered twigs. And for then the flower centers, I am going to use a little fossilized amber. However, that doesn't end up showing up all that great, and I'm going to cover it with some Nuvo crystal drops anyway, so you could almost not do anything if you didn't want to, but I did add that little bit of yellow, and I could have even gone back over it after I do the ink blending of the background to make it show up more. So there's a couple of fun stenciling ideas, again, beautiful as is, or you can do what I'm doing here, where I'm taking a little antique linen Distress Oxide ink and I'm inking over the whole background very lightly. I love this because it almost looks like a craft background. I'm going to take a little gathered twigs then and just go around the edges of the panel to deepen and darken them a little bit. You can see that you can, the distress ink of the stenciling is still very, very easy to see. And then I'm going to spritz the background with water from a distress sprayer for a bit of distressing, because those Distress Oxide inks are going to play really nicely with the water. I'm going to clean up my mat at least a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and ink here very lightly with our aqua color, even over the red. Don't be afraid to do that. I'll show you how I kind of make the red stand out a little bit more after I have ink blended the background. You could definitely do this first. This is one of those things that I didn't realize I wanted to do until I got the stenciling done. So I'm tapping off my color on my mat and then taking it to the paper and then inking the edges with Rustic Wilderness to deepen and darken the edges here as well. Now I am going to go back to my Winter Floral Layering set and grab the flower and grab my Festive Berries or Candied Apple ink, and I'm just going to re-ink those flowers. I guess I grabbed Festive Berries so that I can make sure that they still stand out against that background. So just a quick add of color here. So pretty. Again, we're going to spritz this with water from a distress sprayer. Blot those droplets dry, adds some fantastic distressing to the background. I'm going to clean up my work surface and we are going to move on to the Waffle Flower Big Dot Stencil. So what's great about this, and I know it's a little hard to see on camera, but there is in between the circle cutouts for the stenciling is a circle template. So a little circle in the actual stencil, so it makes it easy to line up. I'm going to go row by row adding color. So this oversized wishes set has so many different sentiments that I was able to make it work for a Christmas or holiday card, for a fall themed card, and then a birthday card. This is going to be the birthday card. So I used KITSCH Flamingo, Candied Apple. We're going to use a little spiced marmalade, not carved pumpkin. Spiced marmalade, squeezed lemonade, twisted citron, and salvaged patina to create the dots. So first, I just laid the stencil down and I'm going to go through and add my dots, or add my circles. Kind of row by row, if you will. And I purposely started off the top edge of the panel so that I could fill the panel with all of my colors. Here's the twisted citron. And then I'm going to, before I moved to salvage patina, I decided while my stencil was still dirty with these colors of ink to go ahead and just move them over so you can line them up. And I'm going to fill in the open spaces so that each row has lots of dots. So I'm just starting with twisted citron. I'm starting at the bottom this time. Squeezed lemonade. Our spiced marmalade. Candied apple, and KITSCH Flamingo. Now this is going to fill in the right side. I'll have to shift it the other way to fill in a couple of areas along the left. I want to make sure everything is filled in. Isn't that fun? I think it would be, this is another one that would be fun without adding any ink in the background. Just really depends on what kind of sentiment you're adding on top. So now, before I do salvage patina, because I don't want to accidentally cross-contaminate, I'm going to wipe my stencil clean. My microfiber cloth is slightly damp with water, so I just picked all of that up. And then I'm going to place my stencil down using what I've already stenciled as my guide, and then shift it over and finish adding my salvaged patina little half dots along the bottom edge. Once we've done that, I'm then going to take my blending brushes and really, for the most part, without re-inking, I'm going to lightly just start inking my panel, blending each color one into another. And I love how this adds color to the entire background quickly and easily. You could do this with absolutely any color combination. The dots are really versatile. You could do green and red for the holidays. You could do any of your favorite color combinations. Really fun. There's also squares and hearts for sure. I think there might even be a couple other designs. And again, spritzing with water from our distress sprayer and blotting dry for that great little bit of distressing. So now we're going to do my next favorite technique, which is adding a text background over our distress inked and stenciled background. And I have a different text background for each because if you guys have been following me for any time, you know that I love them all. This is the thank you text from Simon Says Stamp. I thought this would be great for our fall themed card. I am going to use the Hero Arts Unicorn White ink. I'm going to ink it all up with white ink and stamp it right over the background. Now, something I want to mention about this white pigment ink, and really probably any pigment ink you use, is that it's going to be pretty dark when you first look at it. It really shows up but I promise as this dries and absorbs, it fades just a little bit, leaving the stenciling to be much more prominent. I actually let my background sit and air dry for a couple hours before I came back and did the rest of my stamping with the STAMPtember waffle flower set, just because I wanted to emboss those sentiments on top of this, and my backgrounds needed to be completely dry. This is the happy birthday text from My Favorite Things stamps, and then the Christmas text we're using is also from My Favorite Things. And those products are linked below in the supplies for easy reference. I have used these over and over again. These are some of my most often used text stamps. Look how fun those are. I love it. So I already stamped the birthday card. I am using Sending Birthday Wishes. So there's two options for the oversized wishes greetings. There's wishes or wishing. I used wishes here. I made a sentiment strip from Sending Birthday. I stamped that with Salvage Patina Distress Oxide ink, and then I'm adding some heart accents to my panel. I'm keeping my panels really simple. You could definitely have added more to this one specifically, I think, because it doesn't necessarily have flowers or leaves or anything like that. The dots are going to be a little bit more versatile if you want to add something on top. I really just kept it simple since I'm keeping all of them simple, and I just did a rainbow of heart accents. These are Trinity Stamps hearts. The specific name of these is the Happy Heart Embellishment Mix for the large heart, and then the small one is a little red heart that I actually used for our dot on the letter I. And after I add my heart accents, I'm going to put foam adhesive on the back of my sentiment strip, die cut with the Simon Says Stamp Sentiment Labels dies, and we're going to pop it up with foam adhesive, and then I am going to add a scattering of iridescent star confetti around the panel of my card for a little bit of added sparkle and fun. And I just kind of scattered them throughout and then added them with glue. On the fall background, I'm prepping it with some powder, and I had trouble getting it out, you can see, and a whole bunch came out, but that'll be fine. Now for this, I really wanted my sentiment to be a dark brown, but I don't have a dark brown embossing powder. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stamp Wishing with the Ground Espresso Distress Oxide ink. Now you probably could put clear embossing powder right on top of this, but I don't always find I get the best coverage with just doing that. So I stamped the Wishing with Ground Espresso. I'm going to clean my stamp without removing it from my MISTI, and then I'm going to ink it up with the Hero Arts Embossing and Watermark ink and stamp right on top of the Ground Espresso. And then we're going to take clear embossing powder and make sure it's clear and go ahead and apply that over the top, heat emboss, and we're going to end up with a brown embossed sentiment that really ties in nicely to the look and design of this particular background. And this sentiment is going to be Wishing, as we are going to build our sentiment with that word instead. And we will kind of finish it here in a minute. So let's just set that one aside and go ahead and stamp our sentiment for our holiday background. We're going to move back to the Wishes sentiment, and this time I'm going to do something even a little bit more different. I'm going to stamp Wishes first and heat emboss with white embossing powder, and then I'm going to slightly shift my sentiment, or not my sentiment, my paper, and I'm going to stamp it again with clear embossing ink, but this time emboss with black embossing powder. It's going to give the illusion that there's a little bit of a white shadow around the black sentiment. So there is the Wishes. I'm going to do the white embossing powder first. Now I did notice that, I didn't get very good coverage in a couple of places. So I am going to go ahead and stamp that again, I think. I think I stamped this one again. Maybe it was the first one I did that. I just don't think the white stands out quite that great, but I thought it would make a really fantastic shadow. So I'm just very slightly moving it. And I'm so sorry, my head is in the way because I'm trying to just move it a tiny, tiny little bit. You don't want to move it a lot. And that's looking a little bit better. Again, I'm so sorry, my head is in the way. Still not quite where I want it. It's a lot of trial and error, but when I get it where I want, I'm going to go ahead and ink it up with the clear embossing ink, and then we will add our black embossing powder. So now we're going to stamp the rest of our sentiments for our cards. You all the best is the sentiment for the fall themed card, so it'll read wishing you all the best. I stamped that with Crackling Campfire Distress Oxide ink. And then sending warm is going to be stamped with the Candied Apple Distress Oxide ink. And both of these will be die cut with a Sentiment Labels Simon Says stamp die and popped up on the backgrounds with foam adhesive, just like I did for the birthday card. So we just have some finishing details left to do for both card backgrounds. I opted to keep them very simple, especially our fall and winter cards, as the stenciled background really is the embellishment for these cards. So there's what the black embossing with that little bit of a white shadow looks like. And then we're going to go ahead and add all the best to our fall themed card. And you can definitely see how the text background has blended into the background as the ink has dried, and it is not near as prevalent and prominent, I guess I should say, as it was when we first stamped it, which is what I'm going for. I just want that subtle text background. I don't want the whole panel to just be text. I want it to kind of blend and fade into the background of our cards. I'm adding some little gold star confetti all over both of my cards here. The fall themed card first. I like that little bit of sparkle. We're going to put or apply Nuvo crystal drops in pale gold to the centers of the flowers and then also to the dots around the card, and allow that to completely dry, and then add the gold star confetti around this design as well. And I am going to put a little red heart here, which I dropped a zillion times and ended up just grabbing a new heart because that one was gunked up. To finish off the wishes, I added coffee bean colored brown ones to the fall themed card. And then I'm using my embellishment wand to add all the little star confetti. We'll place these panels on white top fold card bases to finish the cards. And that is it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video featuring the Simon Says Stamp STAMPtember 2021 exclusive limited edition from Waffle Flower called Oversized Wishes. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Simon Says Stamp STAMPtember that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.